Brianna stared at them from the sidewalk, her hand resting on her small baby bump, water streaming down her face mixing with tears she couldn't control. Inside the house that she'd called home for 3 years, she could see Derek through the window, laughing on his phone like this was just another Tuesday. Like he hadn't just destroyed her entire world. 20 minutes ago she'd come home from her doctor's appointment with ultrasound pictures, excited to show him their baby's first images. Instead, she found her belongings packed and waiting outside. When she used her key to open the door, Derek was standing right there in the hallway with his arms crossed. "You need to leave," he'd said. Not, "We need to talk." Not, "I'm sorry." Just those 4 cold words. "What? Derek, what's happening?" "I just came from the doctor. The baby is—" "I don't care about the baby, Brianna. I don't want it. I don't want you. I want you gone." She'd stood there in shock, unable to process what he was saying. They'd been trying to have a baby for over a year. He'd been the one who suggested it. He'd been happy when she told him she was pregnant 6 weeks ago. What changed? Is this a joke? "Derek, I'm 3 months pregnant with your child. Our child. We planned this together. Plans change. I've changed. I want something different now. Someone different." The words hit her like a punch to the stomach. Someone different. There was someone else. Who is she? Brianna heard herself ask, her voice sounding strange and far away. "That's not your business anymore. Your stuff is outside. I had the locks changed. Don't try to come back. This is my house too. My name is on the deed. Actually, it's not. Check the papers. I refinanced last month. Your name isn't on anything anymore. Now get out before I call the police." Brianna had backed away from him, her mind spinning. How had he removed her name without her knowing? When had he become this person, this stranger with cold eyes who looked at her like she was nothing? She grabbed what she could carry and walked out. As she loaded her car, Derek came outside one more time. "Don't try to get child support or anything," he said. "I'll fight you on paternity. You'll get nothing from me. You're on your own." Then he'd gone back inside and closed the door. That was 2 hours ago. Now Brianna sat in her car in a grocery store parking lot, trying to figure out what to do next. She had $400 in her personal checking account. Derek had always handled their finances and she trusted him. She'd been so stupid. She couldn't call her mother. Her mom had passed away 2 years ago from cancer. Her father had left when she was young and she had no siblings. Her closest friends had drifted away over the past year because Derek always said they were bad influences or too dramatic. He'd slowly separated her from everyone, and she'd let him because she thought he loved her. She pulled out her phone and called her old coworker Patrice from the restaurant where she'd worked before Derek convinced her to quit and focus on making a home for us. "Brianna? Girl, I haven't heard from you in forever. How are you?" "Patrice, I need help. Derek threw me out. I'm pregnant and I have nowhere to go." "What? That man did what? Where are you right now?" Brianna told her and Patrice immediately said, "Stay there. I'm coming to get you. We'll figure this out." 2 hours later, Brianna was checked into the cheapest motel Patrice could find, one that charged by the week. Patrice had paid for the first week with her own money and promised to see if the restaurant would hire Brianna back. "You can't let him win," Patrice said, hugging her before she left. "You're stronger than you think." But Brianna didn't feel strong. She felt broken. She lay on the hard motel bed that smelled like cigarettes and cleaning chemicals, her hand on her stomach, and cried until she had no tears left. How had she ended up here? How had the man who'd promised to love her forever turned into someone who could throw her away like garbage? And how was she going to survive with a baby coming and nothing to her name? She didn't know it yet, but in exactly 12 days, everything was going to change. In 12 days she was going to buy a lottery ticket with her last $5. In 12 days her real power was going to reveal itself. But tonight all she knew was pain. Tonight she was just a woman who'd been abandoned by the person who was supposed to protect her. Tonight she had no idea that Derek Patterson had made the biggest mistake of his life. Tomorrow she'd start fighting back. Tomorrow she'd start surviving. But tonight she let herself grieve for the life she'd lost and the man she'd thought she knew. The rain continued outside, hitting the motel window in steady streams. Brianna closed her eyes and put both hands on her stomach. "I promise you," she whispered to her baby, "I promise I'll figure this out. I promise you'll have everything you need. I promise that no matter what happens you'll always know your mother fought for you." It was a promise she intended to keep, no matter what it took. The diner job was harder than Brianna remembered. Her feet ached after 8-hour shifts, and the smell of grease made her morning sickness worse. But she showed up every day at 6 in the morning because she had to. The manager, Rita, had been kind enough to hire her back without asking too many questions. "You look tired, honey," Rita said one afternoon, sliding a plate of fries across the counter. "Eat something. You need your strength." Brianna was 3.5 months pregnant now, 2 weeks after Derek had thrown her out. The baby bump was starting to show more clearly, and she'd had to buy looser clothes from the thrift store. Everything she owned could fit in 2 suitcases and a backpack. "I'm okay," Brianna said, though she wasn't. She was exhausted, scared, and still trying to process what had happened to her life. Patrice sat down next to her on her break. "Have you talked to a lawyer yet about the house?" "I can't afford a lawyer. I looked into legal aid, but they have a waiting list 6 months long. By the time they could help me, the baby will be here." "What about Derek? Has he tried to contact you?" "No, nothing. It's like I never existed to him." Brianna stabbed at the fries without eating them. "I don't understand how someone can just stop caring about another person that fast. We were together for 4 years. We were married for 3 of those years. How do you just throw that away?" "Because he's a terrible person," Patrice said firmly. "And you're better off without him, even though it doesn't feel like it right now." After her shift, Brianna walked back to the motel instead of taking the bus to save the fare. It was getting dark and she knew it wasn't the safest choice, but every dollar mattered now. She was saving everything she could for doctor appointments and baby supplies. The motel room felt smaller every day. The walls were thin and she could hear everything from the neighboring rooms. Fights, crying, televisions blaring at all hours. But it was shelter and she was grateful for it. She sat on the bed and pulled out the notebook where she was tracking her expenses. With her wages from the diner, she could afford the motel room, basic food, and doctor visits if she was careful. There was nothing left over for savings or emergencies. If anything went wrong, she was in trouble. Her phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. She answered carefully. "Is this Brianna Patterson?" "Yes, who's this?" "This is Collins and Associates. We're calling about an outstanding credit card balance in your name. You're 60 days past due on a payment of $1,800. Brianna's stomach dropped. "I don't have a credit card with your company. According to our records, you opened this account 4 months ago. "4 months ago. Right around the time Derek had started acting strange. "I never opened that account. My husband must have done it without telling me." "Are you saying this is fraud?" "I'm saying I didn't open it and I didn't use it. I need to file a dispute." The woman on the phone sighed. "You'll need to fill out paperwork and possibly file a police report. But until this is resolved, you're still responsible for the debt." Brianna hung up feeling sick. Derek hadn't just thrown her out. He'd set her up to fail. How many other debts were out there with her name on them? That evening, she walked to the grocery store to buy food for the week. She had exactly $73 until her next paycheck. She carefully selected items, doing the math in her head, making sure she stayed under budget. At the checkout, she watched the total climb. $68.42. She had enough. Barely. "You want to add a lottery ticket?" the cashier asked. "Jackpot's up to $75 million tonight." Brianna almost said no. She needed every dollar. But something made her pause. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the tiny flicker of hope that she hadn't completely lost yet. Maybe it was just the desire to believe that something good could still happen. "Sure," she said. "1 ticket. Quick pick." The cashier printed it out and handed it to her along with her change. $4.58 left. That would get her 1 more day of bus fare. Back at the motel, Brianna put away her groceries and stuck the lottery ticket to the mirror with a piece of tape. She stared at it for a moment, at the random numbers printed on the cheap paper. "Wouldn't that be something?" she said to her reflection. "Wouldn't that just be something?" She didn't really believe she'd win. The odds were impossible. But for just a moment, she let herself imagine it. What would she do with $75 million? Would she go back to Derek and throw it in his face? Would she disappear and start over somewhere new? No, she thought. If she had that kind of money, she'd make sure Derek paid for what he did. She'd make sure he regretted every second of the day he decided to throw her away. But it was just a fantasy. In the morning, she'd wake up and go back to the diner. She'd keep working and saving and hoping that somehow, she'd figure out how to give her baby a decent life. The lottery drawing was at 11 that night. Brianna was too tired to stay awake for it. She fell asleep around 9, one hand on her belly, thinking about the baby that was growing inside her. Her child. The one person who would always be hers, who Derek couldn't take away. She didn't dream. She was too exhausted for dreams. She just slept the heavy sleep of someone who'd worked hard all day and had to do it all again tomorrow. At midnight, the winning numbers were announced on television screens across the city. Brianna didn't hear them. She didn't know that her life had just changed forever. She didn't know that the ticket taped to her mirror was worth $75 million. She wouldn't find out until morning. And when she did, everything would be different. Brianna woke up at 5 in the morning like always. Her body hurt from sleeping on the cheap mattress, and she felt the baby move for the first time, a little flutter in her stomach that made her catch her breath. "Good morning, little one," she whispered, placing her hand where she'd felt the movement. She got ready for work in the tiny bathroom, pulling her hair into a ponytail and putting on her uniform. As she grabbed her purse, her eyes landed on the lottery ticket still taped to the mirror. "Let me check that before I throw it away," she muttered. She pulled out her phone and searched for the winning numbers from last night's drawing. The lottery website loaded slowly on her cheap phone. Finally, the numbers appeared: 7, 14, 23, 31, 44, and Powerball 18. Brianna looked at her ticket, then back at her phone, then at her ticket again. 7, 14, 23, 31, 44, Powerball 18. Her ticket matched. Every single number. She sat down hard on the bed, staring at the ticket in her shaking hands. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. She checked the website again, then took a picture of her ticket and compared them side by side. It was real. She'd won. $75 million. Brianna's first instinct was to scream, but she caught herself. The walls were thin. She couldn't let anyone know. She sat there for 10 minutes, just breathing, trying to process what had just happened. Her phone alarm went off, reminding her she needed to leave for work in 20 minutes. She stared at it. Did she still need to go to work? She'd just won $75 million. Yes, she decided. She needed to go to work and act normal until she figured out what to do. She carefully removed the ticket from the mirror, folded it, and put it in the zippered inside pocket of her purse. Then she took a picture of the front and back of the ticket and emailed it to herself. The walk to the diner felt surreal. Every step, Brianna was aware of the ticket in her purse, aware that her life had completely changed. But nobody else knew. To everyone else, she was just the pregnant waitress walking to her shift. "Morning, honey," Rita called when Brianna arrived. "You look better today. Got some color in your cheeks." "I slept well," Brianna said, which was true. She'd had no idea she was sleeping on a winning lottery ticket. The shift dragged on forever. Every time Brianna had a quiet moment, her mind raced. What should she do first? Who should she tell? How did she even claim the prize? During her break, she sat in the back room and did research on her phone. She learned that she should sign the ticket immediately and keep it in a safe place. She learned that she should hire a financial advisor and a lawyer before claiming the prize. She learned that she could choose to remain anonymous in some states, and fortunately hers was one of them. "You okay?" Patrice asked, sitting down next to her. "You seem distracted today." "I'm fine," Brianna said quickly. "Just thinking about stuff." "Derek stuff?" "No, actually. For once, I'm not thinking about Derek at all." That was true. For the first time since he'd thrown her out, Derek wasn't taking up space in her head. Instead, she was thinking about power. About options. About the fact that she now had the resources to do whatever she wanted. And what she wanted was to make sure Derek paid for what he'd done. After her shift, Brianna didn't go back to the motel. Instead, she went to the public library and used their computers to research lawyers and financial advisors. She needed people who specialized in lottery winners, people who could help her protect her money and her privacy. She found a law firm 2 cities over that had experience with lottery cases. She called and made an appointment for the next day, using a fake name at first until she could explain in person. Then she searched for financial advisors who worked with sudden wealth. She found several and started making a list. By the time the library closed, Brianna had a plan. Tomorrow she'd go to the law office. She'd figure out how to claim her prize anonymously. She'd set up trusts and investments. She'd make sure the money was protected before anyone, especially Derek, found out about it. And then, once everything was secure, she was going to destroy the man who'd thrown her away when she needed him most. Back at the motel, Brianna lay on the bed with her hands on her stomach. The baby was moving again, little flutters that felt like bubbles. "Everything's going to be okay now," she whispered. "Better than okay. We're going to have everything we need. And your father is going to regret what he did. Not because I want him back. Not because I care about him anymore. But because actions have to have consequences. And he's about to learn that." She thought about Derek, probably at home with whoever he'd left her for, thinking he'd gotten away with everything. He had no idea what was coming. He had no idea that the woman he'd thrown away like trash now had more power than he could imagine. Brianna pulled out her notebook and started writing. Not a budget this time. A plan. A step-by-step guide to taking apart Derek's life the same way he'd taken apart hers. First, she needed to secure the money. Second, she needed information about what Derek had been doing, who he was with, what he was hiding. Third, she needed to figure out his vulnerabilities, the places where she could apply pressure. She wasn't going to confront him. She wasn't going to ask him for anything. She was going to quietly dismantle everything he had piece by piece until he had nothing left. And he'd never see it coming. The law office was in a tall glass building that made Brianna feel small when she walked in. But she held her head high and gave the receptionist the name she'd used when she made the appointment. "Someone will be right with you," the woman said with a professional smile. 10 minutes later, Brianna was sitting across from a lawyer named Gregory Thompson, a man in his 50s with kind eyes and an expensive suit. "So," he said after she'd explained why she was there, "you've won the lottery and you want to claim anonymously. Smart. Very smart. Can I do that?" Brianna asked. "In this state, yes. You can claim through a trust, which keeps your name out of the public records. I'd recommend setting up what we call a blind trust. You'd be the beneficiary, but your name wouldn't appear anywhere in the paperwork." "How long does that take?" "If we move quickly, about a week. In the meantime, that ticket needs to be in a safe deposit box. Do you have one?" "No. We'll set one up today at the bank downstairs. You'll also need a financial advisor, and I'd recommend a security consultant given the amount you've won." Over the next 3 hours, Gregory walked Brianna through everything she needed to do. They went to the bank and got a safe deposit box. They started the paperwork for the trust. They discussed tax implications and investment strategies. "Now," Gregory said, "I have to ask. Is there anyone who might challenge your claim to this money? An estranged spouse, for example?" Brianna's jaw tightened. "My husband threw me out 2 weeks ago. We're still legally married, but we're separated. Then we need to move fast on a divorce filing. In this state, any assets acquired during a marriage are potentially community property. If he finds out about the lottery win before the divorce is final, he could claim half. Can we file today? We can start the paperwork today. I'll refer you to a divorce attorney in our firm. Her name is Patricia Mills and she's excellent." By the end of the day, Brianna had met with Patricia, signed divorce papers, and set up protection for her lottery winnings. She'd also written a check from her checking account, the last bit of her own money, to cover the initial legal fees. In a week, when the trust claimed the lottery prize, she'd pay the full bill. "One more thing," Brianna said to Gregory before she left. "I need to hire a private investigator. May I ask why? My husband did something to take my name off our house deed without my knowledge. He's also been opening credit cards in my name. I want to know what else he's been doing, who he's involved with, and if there's anything illegal I should know about." Gregory nodded slowly. "I know someone who's very good and very discreet. I'll make the introduction." 3 days later, Brianna met with the private investigator, a woman named Sharon Cole who was in her 40s and had the no-nonsense attitude of someone who'd seen everything. "Tell me about your husband," Sharon said. Brianna told her everything. About Derek throwing her out when she got pregnant. About the house refinance. About the credit cards. About the fact that he'd said he'd fight her on paternity even though he knew the baby was his. Sharon took notes, her expression growing harder. "He sounds like a real piece of work. What do you want to know?" "Everything. Who he's with. What he's been hiding. Anything I can use." "Use for what?" Brianna met Sharon's eyes. "I want him to lose everything the way he made me lose everything. I want him to feel what I felt. And I have the resources now to make that happen." Sharon studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Give me 2 weeks. I'll find out everything there is to know about Derek Patterson." While Sharon was investigating, Brianna started changing her own life. The day after the trust claimed her lottery winnings, she left the motel and checked into a nice hotel with room service and clean sheets that smelled like lavender. She bought new clothes that actually fit her changing body. She scheduled doctor appointments with the best OBGYN in the city. She opened new bank accounts and got a new phone number that Derek didn't know. She looked for houses, something she'd always dreamed of owning. She found a beautiful place with a yard and good schools nearby, and she paid cash for it. The whole process took less than a week. Patrice was the only person Brianna told about the lottery win, swearing her to secrecy. "Are you serious?" Patrice had screamed. $75 million? Girl. "You can't tell anyone," Brianna said firmly. "Not yet. Not until I've handled some things. What things? Derek thinks. Patrice's expression shifted. What are you planning? I'm planning to make sure he regrets what he did. I'm not going back to him. I'm not forgiving him. I'm making sure he pays. Good, Patrice said fiercely. That man deserves everything that's coming to him. For months ago, Brianna had been a woman with nothing. Now she had money, power, and a plan. She'd hired the best lawyer in the city. She'd hired a private investigator. She'd secured her future and her baby's future. And in a few days, Sharon would deliver her report on Derek. Then the real work would begin. Brianna stood in her new house in the nursery she was starting to set up, and looked out at the yard where her child would play someday. She'd done this herself. She'd survived being thrown away and she'd come back stronger. Derek had thought she was weak. He thought she'd just disappear and let him move on with his life. He was about to learn how wrong he'd been. Sharon Cole called 2 weeks after they'd first met. I've got your report. Can you come to my office? Brianna arrived within the hour. Sharon had everything spread out on her conference table. Photographs, documents, financial records, phone logs. Your husband is a bigger mess than you thought, Sharon said. Let's start with the woman. Her name is Whitney Bradford. She's 31, works in marketing at a tech company, and here's the interesting part. She's married. Brianna picked up the photograph. Whitney was thin, blonde, with the kind of polished look that came from expensive salons and personal trainers. Her husband's name is Christopher Bradford. He's a surgeon, makes about $500,000 a year. They've been married for 5 years, no kids. And according to the texts I recovered, Whitney told Derek she'd leave Christopher if Derek got rid of his pregnant wife. Brianna's stomach twisted. So he threw me out because she asked him to? Looks that way. The timeline matches. Whitney started pressuring Derek about 6 weeks before he kicked you out. She told him she couldn't be with him seriously unless he was free. So he made himself free. What else? Sharon flipped through papers. Derek works as an accountant at Morrison Financial Services. Or he did. 3 months ago, he started embezzling money from client accounts. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. I'm estimating he's stolen about $200,000 so far. Why would he need to steal money? Because he's been spending it on Whitney. Expensive dinners, jewelry, a weekend trip to wine country, a down payment on a new car for her. He was trying to convince her he was worth leaving her rich husband for. Brianna felt sick. While she'd been working at the diner, pregnant and exhausted, Derek had been stealing money to impress another man's wife. There's more, Sharon continued. Remember those credit cards in your name? There are 5 of them. Total debt is about $40,000. Derek opened them using your information, spent the money, and has been making minimum payments from his own account to keep them active. I think he was planning to stick you with the debt when you found out about them. Can I prove he did this? Yes. I have copies of the applications. The signatures don't match your real signature, and the IP address where they were submitted traces back to Derek's computer. You can absolutely prove fraud. Sharon pushed another folder across the table. Here's something else interesting. Derek refinanced your house to pull out equity. He took out $300,000 and told the bank he needed it for renovations. The money is gone. He spent it on Whitney and on covering up his embezzlement at work. How is he not in jail? Because nobody knows yet. His company hasn't figured out what he's been doing. But they will. It's only a matter of time before an audit catches it. Brianna sat back, processing everything. Derek wasn't just a cheating husband. He was a criminal who'd been stealing from everyone around him, including her. What about Whitney's husband? She asked. Does he know about the affair? No. Christopher Bradford has no idea his wife has been cheating on him for almost a year. He works long hours at the hospital, and Whitney has been careful to cover her tracks. But I have proof. Photos, text messages, hotel receipts. Can you get me copies of everything? Already done. Sharon pushed a USB drive across the table. Everything is on here. Photos, documents, financial records, text message transcripts. It's enough to destroy both of them if you use it right. Brianna picked up the USB drive and held it in her palm. Such a small thing, but it contains so much power. What are you going to do? Sharon asked. I'm going to make sure Derek loses his job. I'm going to make sure he loses his freedom when they prosecute him for embezzlement. I'm going to make sure Whitney loses her marriage. And I'm going to make sure Derek knows that I'm the one who made it all happen. That's cold. He threw me out when I was pregnant with his child. He stole from me. He ruined my credit. He tried to destroy my life because another woman asked him to. I'm just returning the favor. Sharon nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think he deserves everything you're about to do to him. That evening, Brianna sat in her new house, reviewing everything Sharon had given her. She had proof of embezzlement, proof of fraud, proof of an affair, proof that Derek had systematically destroyed their marriage and her life for money and another woman. She thought about calling Derek right then, telling him she knew everything. But that would give him a chance to prepare, to cover his tracks, to maybe get away with some of what he'd done. No. She needed to be strategic. She needed to make sure every piece fell into place before Derek even knew he was in trouble. She started making calls. First to Gregory Thompson, her lawyer, to go over the fraud evidence. Then to Morrison Financial Services' anonymous ethics hotline, to report the embezzlement. She didn't give her name, just the specific account numbers and dates that Sharon had uncovered. Then she made the hardest call. She found Christopher Bradford's number and called him. "Hello?" he answered, sounding distracted. "Dr. Bradford, you don't know me, but I have information about your wife that I think you need to see. Can we meet somewhere?" There was a long pause. "What kind of information?" "The kind that's better shown in person. I have proof of something that's going to hurt, but you deserve to know the truth." Another pause. "Tomorrow. There's a coffee shop near my hospital. Can you meet me there at 6? "I'll be there." Brianna hung up and put her hand on her stomach. The baby was moving more regularly now, little kicks that reminded her why she was doing this. Not for revenge, not really. For justice. For making sure that people who hurt others had to face consequences. Derek had thought he could throw her away and move on with no repercussions. He'd thought she was weak, dependent, someone who would just fade away quietly. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he'd been. The coffee shop was quiet when Brianna arrived. Christopher Bradford was already there, sitting in a corner booth, still wearing his hospital scrubs. He looked tired, like someone who'd just finished a long shift. "Dr. Bradford?" Brianna approached carefully. "You're the woman who called?" He studied her, his eyes lingering on her obvious pregnancy. "Please sit down." Brianna slid into the booth across from him and pulled out a folder from her bag. "I'm going to show you some things that are going to be hard to see. I'm sorry, but you need to know." She pushed the folder across the table. Christopher opened it and started looking through the contents. Photos of Whitney and Derek at restaurants, holding hands. Hotel receipts. Text messages printed out, showing conversations that made it clear this was a long-term affair, not a one-time mistake. Christopher's face went from confused to hurt to angry. He closed the folder and pushed it away, his hands shaking. "How long have you known about this?" he asked quietly. "I found out 2 weeks ago. Whitney is having an affair with my husband. Or my soon-to-be ex-husband. He's the father of this baby," Brianna gestured to her stomach. "He threw me out when I was 3 months pregnant so he could be with her." Christopher looked at her with something like sympathy. "I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry about what's happening to you. Nobody deserves this. Why did you come to me? Why not just let me stay in the dark? Because you deserve to know the truth. And because she needs to face consequences for what she's done." Brianna met his eyes. "My husband is going to face consequences for what he did to me. I thought Whitney should face them too." Christopher was quiet for a long moment, staring at the closed folder. "She's been acting strange for months. Working late, always on her phone, distant. I thought maybe she was stressed about work. I never imagined." Nobody ever imagines it until they have proof. "What are you going to do? About your husband?" "Everything I legally can. He's committed fraud, embezzlement, and identity theft. I'm making sure he pays for all of it." Christopher picked up the folder again. "Can I keep these? Those are your copies. I have everything else I need." "Thank you. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel right now." "However you feel is right," Brianna said gently. "This isn't your fault." She left him there with the evidence of his wife's betrayal. It wasn't pleasant, destroying someone's marriage, even when that someone had destroyed hers first. But Whitney had made her choice. She pursued a married man and pressured him to abandon his pregnant wife. Actions had consequences. The next morning, Brianna got a call from Gregory Thompson. The company received the anonymous tip about the embezzlement. They're conducting an internal audit. Derek doesn't know yet, but he will soon. How long until they find everything? Based on what you told me, probably a few days. Once they find the first discrepancy, they'll dig deeper. It's a house of cards. It's all going to come down. Brianna's next move was the most expensive one. She found out that the owner of Derek's apartment building was interested in selling. She contacted him through a real estate attorney, keeping her name off the paperwork, and made an offer he couldn't refuse. She paid cash, 5% above asking price, for immediate sale. Within a week, she owned Derek's building. Then she hired a property management company with specific instructions: review all leases and begin the process of non-renewal for tenants who had violated any terms. Derek's lease had a clause about illegal activity on the premises. His embezzlement and fraud qualified. She also bought the building where Morrison Financial Services leased their office space. She couldn't kick Derek's company out without cause, but she could make sure that when his crimes came to light, there would be no way for him to hide or delay. Patrice listened to all of this with wide eyes. You're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. I'm making sure every exit is blocked before he knows he's trapped, Brianna corrected. What happens when he finds out it's you? By the time he finds out, it'll be too late for him to do anything about it. He'll have lost his job, his apartment, his girlfriend, and possibly his freedom. He'll have nothing left to fight me with. Do you ever feel bad about it? Brianna thought about that question. No. He threw me out when I was pregnant. He stole from me. He destroyed my credit. He tried to ruin my life. I'm just holding him accountable. 3 days later, Gregory called again. Morrison Financial has placed Derek on administrative leave. The audit found significant discrepancies in client accounts. They're bringing in a forensic accountant. Will they press charges? Almost certainly. This isn't a small mistake. It's systematic theft over several months. He's looking at serious prison time if convicted. That evening, Brianna received a call from an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? You did this. It was Whitney. Her voice was shaking with anger. You told Christopher. You ruined my marriage. Your affair ruined your marriage, Brianna said calmly. I just made sure your husband knew the truth. You're vindictive and cruel. I'm someone whose life you helped destroy. You told Derek to get rid of his pregnant wife so he could be with you. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences for that? Derek said you were weak. He said you'd just disappear. Derek was wrong about a lot of things. He's about to find out just how wrong. Whitney hung up. Brianna smiled. Whitney was angry, which meant Christopher had confronted her. That was one piece fallen into place. 2 days later, Derek was officially fired from Morrison Financial. The company had found evidence of embezzlement totaling $230,000. They turned everything over to the police. Derek was arrested the same day. Brianna heard about it from Gregory, who'd been monitoring the situation. He's been charged with embezzlement and fraud. Bail is set at $50,000. His arraignment is tomorrow. What's he facing if convicted? Probably 5 to 10 years in prison, depending on the plea deal. Brianna sat with that information. Derek was going to prison. The man who'd thrown her away, who'd thought he could do whatever he wanted without consequences, was going to lose everything. And he still didn't know she was behind it. He thought it was just bad luck, everything falling apart at once. He had no idea that she'd orchestrated all of it. But soon he would know. Soon she was going to make sure he understood exactly who had brought him down. Derek couldn't make bail. Whitney didn't have the money to help him, not after Christopher had frozen all their joint accounts and filed for divorce. Derek's parents had cut him off years ago over some argument, so there was nobody else. He sat in jail for 3 days before his public defender got him out on a payment plan. When he walked out of the jail, he looked smaller somehow, defeated in a way Brianna had never seen him. She knew this because Sharon was still watching him, still documenting everything. He went straight to Whitney's apartment, Sharon reported over the phone. She wouldn't let him in. They fought on the doorstep. Neighbors called the police for a noise complaint. He left after that. Where did he go? Back to his apartment. But here's where it gets interesting. There was an eviction notice on his door. Your property management company moved fast. Derek had 30 days to vacate. He had no job, no money, and now no home. Everything was collapsing exactly as Brianna had planned. But Derek still didn't know why. That was the part that kept him awake at night, Sharon reported. He kept telling people that someone was out to get him, but he didn't know who. He'd made a list of enemies, people he'd wronged over the years, but Brianna's name wasn't on it. He dismissed her so completely that he couldn't imagine she had the power to do this to him. He tried to call you, Patrice told Brianna one afternoon. He came to the diner looking for you. Rita told him you didn't work there anymore. He asked if I knew where you were. What did you tell him? That I hadn't seen you in weeks. Which was true until you told me about the lottery. Patrice shook her head. He looked desperate. Lost. He said he needed to find you because you were the only person who might help him. Brianna felt a cold satisfaction at that. Derek had thrown her out, told her she'd get nothing from him, said he'd fight her on paternity. And now he wanted her help. "He's not going to find me," Brianna said. "Not until I want him to." A week later, Derek's legal troubles got worse. The district attorney decided to prosecute him for the identity theft and credit card fraud in addition to the embezzlement. Patricia Mills, Brianna's divorce attorney, had made sure the evidence was turned over to the right people. "He's looking at possibly 15 years now if convicted on all charges," Patricia told her. "His public defender is trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the DA isn't interested in going easy. This is a clear case of someone systematically defrauding multiple victims." "What about the divorce?" "He's been served. He hasn't responded yet because he's dealing with the criminal charges. But we'll get a default judgment if he doesn't respond within the deadline." Brianna's baby was growing. She was almost 6 months pregnant now, and she'd found out she was having a girl. She'd set up the nursery in her new house, painting it a soft purple color and buying everything her daughter would need. At night, she sat in the rocking chair and talked to her baby about the future. "You're going to grow up safe," she promised. "You're going to grow up knowing your mother fought for you. And you're never going to have to depend on anyone who doesn't deserve you." Whitney's divorce from Christopher was moving forward quickly. He'd filed on grounds of adultery and wasn't interested in reconciliation. He'd also made it clear to his colleagues at the hospital what had happened, which meant Whitney's social circle had evaporated. Sharon reported that Whitney had blamed everything on Derek. She told people he'd pursued her, lied to her, told her he was already divorced. She'd claimed she was a victim too. "Typical," Brianna said when she heard that. "Nobody wants to take responsibility for what they did." Derek tried everything to get his life back together. He applied for jobs, but his arrest record and pending charges made him unemployable. He tried to borrow money from old friends, but most of them had heard what he'd done and wanted nothing to do with him. He tried to talk to Whitney again, but she'd blocked his number and threatened to get a restraining order. He was running out of options, which meant soon he'd become desperate. And desperate people did predictable things. "He's going to try to find you," Sharon warned. "He's asked multiple people if they know where you are. He seems to think you'll help him because you're too nice to hold a grudge." Brianna laughed at that. Too nice. Derek had based his entire dismissal of her on the assumption that she was too nice, too weak, too forgiving. He thought he could do whatever he wanted and she'd just accept it. "Let him look," Brianna said. "When he finds me, I'll be ready." She wasn't planning to hide forever. Eventually Derek would track her down. And when he did, she'd make sure he understood exactly what had happened and why. She'd make sure he knew that every bad thing that had come his way was a direct result of his own actions. But that confrontation would happen on her terms, not his. When she was ready. When he'd lost enough that he had nothing left to bargain with. For now she waited. She prepared. She made sure every piece was in place. And she thought about what she would say when Derek finally showed up at her door, begging for help from the woman he'd thrown away. Derek's eviction happened on a cold Tuesday morning. The sheriff showed up with movers who pulled all of Derek's belongings out of the apartment and set them on the curb. Sharon sent Brianna photos. Derek stood there in yesterday's clothes, watching his life literally end up on the street. He had nowhere to go. No money for a new place. No friends willing to take him in. He ended up at a homeless shelter that night. "This feels harsh," Patrice said when Brianna told her. "I mean, I know what he did was terrible, but a homeless shelter? He put me in a motel room with $400 when I was pregnant," Brianna reminded her. "He told me I'd get nothing from him. He tried to destroy my credit. He threw away our baby like we meant nothing. This is what consequences look like." But Derek wasn't giving up. Despite having nothing, despite facing serious prison time, he became obsessed with finding Brianna. Sharon reported that he'd been asking everyone he could think of, going to places they used to visit together, checking with old neighbors. "He seems to think you're his salvation," Sharon said. "He's told people that if he could just talk to you, explain things, you'd understand. He thinks you still care about him. He's delusional. Maybe. Or maybe he's just desperate. Desperate people tell themselves stories that help them survive." Derek eventually found someone who'd seen Brianna. A woman from her old apartment building who'd run into her at a doctor's office. The woman had mentioned seeing Brianna looking healthy and happy, obviously pregnant, leaving in a nice car. Derek had pressed for details. Where was this doctor's office? What kind of car? Did she say where she was living now? The woman hadn't known specifics, but it was enough for Derek to start narrowing his search. He began camping out near upscale obstetrician offices, looking for Brianna. "He's like a stalker," Patrice said with disgust. "He's scared," Brianna corrected. "His trial date is coming up. He knows he's going to prison. He thinks I'm his last hope. Are you going to let him find you?" "Eventually. But not yet. He hasn't lost enough yet." What Derek didn't know was that Brianna had also been working on the legal side. Patricia Mills had been building a case not just for divorce, but for Derek to have no parental rights to their daughter. "We have documentation of abandonment," Patricia explained. "He threw you out while pregnant and explicitly said he'd fight paternity. He's facing serious criminal charges. He has no means to support a child. We can make a strong case that he should have no custody or visitation rights." "Can we really do that?" "Yes. Especially given that he's likely going to prison. The court's primary concern is the child's welfare, and having a father who's an incarcerated felon isn't in a child's best interests." Brianna signed the papers. Her daughter would grow up without Derek in her life at all. No visits, no phone calls, no influence. She'd be free from him completely. It took Derek 3 weeks, but he finally found Brianna. Or rather, he found her address. Sharon spotted him standing outside Brianna's house one evening, just staring at it. "What's he doing?" Brianna asked over the phone. "Just looking. I think he's trying to work up the courage to knock on the door. You seem shocked. Your house is beautiful. He's probably trying to process how you're living like this while he's in a shelter." "Is he leaving?" "Not yet. Wait, he's walking up to the door." Brianna heard her doorbell ring. She looked through the peephole and saw Derek standing there. He looked terrible. Thin, unshaven, wearing clothes that hadn't been washed in days. Behind him, she could see Sharon sitting in a car across the street, watching. Brianna took a breath, put her hand on her belly where her daughter was kicking, and opened the door. Derek's face flooded with relief when he saw her. "Naomi. Thank God. I've been looking for you everywhere. My name is Brianna, Derek. You couldn't even remember that while you were searching for me?" He looked confused for a moment, then shook his head like it didn't matter. "Sorry, I'm so glad I found you. Can I come in? We need to talk." "No, you can't come in. Say whatever you came to say from right there." Derek glanced behind him at the house, the nice neighborhood, the car in the driveway. "How are you living like this? Last I knew you were in a motel. Did you move in with someone?" "That's not your business." "Is it my baby?" He gestured at her stomach. "Are you sure it's mine?" Brianna felt anger flash through her. "Yes, it's yours. She's yours. Not that you have any right to ask, considering you told me you'd fight me on paternity and told me to expect nothing from you." I was upset. I said things I didn't mean. You meant every word. You threw me out, Derek. You took my name off our house. You opened credit cards in my name and destroyed my credit. You stole from me and then you discarded me because your girlfriend asked you to. Derek's face went pale. "How do you know about Whitney?" "I know everything. I know you embezzled money to impress her. I know she's married and used you to have an affair. I know you've been lying about everything for months." "Who told you all this?" Derek's voice rose. "Have you been following me? Spying on me? You're not important enough for that. I just paid someone to find out the truth. It wasn't hard. You're not as smart as you think you are." Derek stepped closer to the door. "Brianna, please. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I need your help. I'm in serious trouble. I could go to prison for years. I have nothing. I'm sleeping in a shelter. I just need..." "What? Money? A place to stay?" "Someone to tell the judge what a good person you are." Brianna laughed. "You threw me out with $400 when I was pregnant. You told me I'd get nothing. You remember saying that?" I was angry. I wasn't thinking clearly. "No, you were thinking very clearly. You wanted me gone so you could be with Whitney. You calculated that I'd be too weak and too scared to do anything about it. You thought I'd just disappear." Derek's expression shifted as something occurred to him. "The apartment building. The one I was living in. You bought it, didn't you? You had me evicted." "I did. The anonymous tip to my company about the embezzlement. That was you too." "Yes. You told Whitney's husband about the affair." "I did that too." Derek stared at her, comprehension dawning. "Everything. All of it. You destroyed my entire life." "No," Brianna said calmly. "You destroyed your own life. I just made sure you faced consequences for it. Actions have repercussions, Derek. You're just finally learning that." Derek stumbled backward off the porch step, looking at Brianna like he'd never seen her before. "You're not the person I married." "You're right. The person you married believed you when you said you loved her. She trusted you with her future. She thought you were a good man. Brianna put her hand on her belly. That person is gone. You killed her when you threw her out for another woman. How? Derek's voice cracked. How do you have all this? The house, the car. You were working at a diner 2 months ago. I won the lottery, Brianna said simply. $75 million. I won it the week after you threw me out. Derek's face went through several expressions. Confusion, disbelief, and then crushing realization. 75 million? I used some of it to make sure you paid for what you did to me. I hired investigators, lawyers. I bought the buildings you worked in and lived in. I made sure the right people knew about your crimes. I gave Whitney's husband proof of your affair. You had $75 million and you still destroyed me? What? You didn't need revenge. You had everything you could ever want. It wasn't about the money, Brianna said. It was about making sure you understood that you can't throw people away without consequences. You can't abuse someone's trust, steal from them, abandon them when they're vulnerable, and just walk away clean. I could have been rich with you. We could have had everything together. Why didn't you tell me about the lottery? We could have worked things out. You threw me out when you thought I had nothing. You told me I'd get nothing from you. You said you'd fight me on paternity even though you knew this baby was yours. You only want me now because I have money. That's exactly why I'll never give you a second chance. Derek dropped to his knees on the sidewalk. Please. Brianna, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. I was wrong. I was stupid. I was selfish. But please, you have to help me. I'm going to prison. I have nothing. I'll do anything. I'll sign whatever you want. I'll give up all rights to the baby. Just please help me. No. I'm begging you. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Oh. Stop, Brianna said firmly. You don't understand. This isn't a negotiation. I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to bail you out. I'm not going to hire you a lawyer or pay your debts or give you money. You chose this. You chose Whitney. You chose to steal. You chose to throw away our marriage. Now you get to live with those choices. You're cruel. You're heartless. I thought you loved me. I did love you. Then you threw me out while I was pregnant with your child. You cured me of loving you very quickly. Derek stood up, anger replacing desperation. That baby is mine. I have rights. Actually, you don't. Patricia Mills, my lawyer, has already filed paperwork to terminate your parental rights. Given that you're facing prison time for embezzlement and fraud, given that you have no income or assets, given that you explicitly told me you wanted nothing to do with this baby, the court is very likely to grant it. You can't do that. I already did. The hearing is next month. By the time our daughter is born, you'll have no legal connection to her at all. She'll never know your name. She'll never have to deal with the fact that her father is a criminal who threw her away before she was even born. I'll fight you. With what? You have no money. You have a public defender who's trying to keep you out of prison. You have no job, no home, no credibility. What are you going to fight me with? Derek opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. He had nothing to say because they both knew she was right. Here's what's going to happen, Brianna continued. You're going to go to trial. You're probably going to prison. You're going to lose your parental rights. And you're going to spend the next several years thinking about what you did and why your life turned out this way. I made a mistake. One mistake. And you're destroying me for it. One mistake. Brianna's voice rose. You had an affair. You embezzled money. You committed identity theft. You threw out your pregnant wife. You lied to everyone around you for months. Those aren't mistakes, Derek. Those are choices. You made them over and over again. This is just the bill coming due. Derek looked up at the house behind her, at the visible signs of her new life. I hate you, he said quietly. I hate you so much. I don't care, Brianna said honestly. Your feelings don't matter to me anymore. You made sure of that. I hope something terrible happens to you. I hope you lose everything the way I lost everything. I won't, because I didn't do anything wrong. I worked hard. I survived what you did to me. I built a new life. And I made sure justice was done. Those aren't things you can be punished for. Sharon's car pulled up to the curb then. She got out and walked toward them. Everything okay here? Sharon asked, her hand near her phone in case she needed to call the police. Mr. Patterson was just leaving, Brianna said. He won't be back. Don't come near Mrs. Patterson again, Sharon said to Derek. If you do, we'll get a restraining order and you'll be arrested for violating it. Your probation officer won't like that. Derek looked between them, realizing he was completely outmatched. He turned and walked away without another word, his shoulders slumped in defeat. Brianna watched him go, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no sadness. Just emptiness where her feelings for him used to be. "You okay?" Sharon asked quietly. "I'm fine. It's done now. He knows everything. He knows I won and he knows why he lost. What if he tries something? What if he gets desperate? He won't. He's got bigger problems than me now. And even if he tried, I have lawyers, money, and evidence. He has nothing. He's already lost." Inside her house, Brianna sat in the nursery and looked at the crib she'd bought for her daughter. In a few months, her baby would be here. Her baby would grow up safe, loved, with everything she needed. Derek would be in prison, paying for his crimes. Whitney would be divorced, dealing with the consequences of her affair. And Brianna would be here, living her life, raising her daughter, building something good from the ashes of what Derek had tried to destroy. She'd won. Completely and thoroughly. And it felt exactly as she'd hoped it would. Empty. Satisfying. Final. Time to move forward and never look back. 6 months later, Brianna held her daughter for the first time. She was beautiful, with a head full of dark hair and eyes that looked around with curiosity even in her first moments of life. "Hello, Isabella," Brianna whispered. "I'm your mother. I've been waiting to meet you." Patrice stood in the corner of the hospital room, tears streaming down her face. "She's perfect. Look at her, she's absolutely perfect." Isabella Grace Thompson, named after Brianna's late mother Isabella and after Gregory Thompson, the lawyer who'd helped her secure her future. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. Completely healthy. Completely loved. Derek hadn't been at the birth, of course. He was in federal prison serving an 8-year sentence after pleading guilty to embezzlement, fraud, and identity theft. The judge hadn't been sympathetic. The prosecutor had presented evidence of everything Derek had done, including throwing out his pregnant wife. The judge had called him morally bankrupt before handing down the sentence. The termination of Derek's parental rights had gone through without opposition. His public defender had advised him not to fight it, since he had no resources to support a child and would be in prison through Isabella's early childhood anyway. The judge had signed the order. Derek had no legal connection to Isabella. She would never have to know him unless Brianna decided to tell her someday. Whitney's life had imploded too. Her divorce had been finalized, and Christopher had made sure she got as little as possible. She'd lost her job after her affair became public knowledge at her company. Last Sharon had checked, Whitney was working retail and living with a roommate, a far cry from the surgeon's wife lifestyle she'd enjoyed before. But Brianna didn't think about them much anymore. They were the past. Her focus was on the future. The first month with Isabella was hard. Sleepless nights, constant feeding, learning how to be a mother. But Patrice helped. So did Rita from the diner, who'd become like a grandmother figure. And Brianna had resources now. She could afford a night nurse when she needed rest. She could buy the best of everything for Isabella. On Isabella's 3-month birthday, Brianna started the foundation she'd been planning. The Isabella Grace Foundation for Single Mothers. It provided housing, job training, legal assistance, and childcare for women who'd been abandoned during pregnancy or with young children. "You're turning your pain into something that helps people," Patrice said when Brianna showed her the plans. "That's powerful. I remember what it felt like to have nothing. To be pregnant and scared and alone. If I can help even one woman avoid that feeling, then everything I went through had a purpose." The foundation grew quickly. Brianna hired good people to run it, women who'd been through similar situations and understood what the clients needed. Within 6 months, they'd helped 30 women get back on their feet. Brianna's days fell into a routine. Mornings with Isabella, teaching her to smile and laugh and discover the world. Afternoons working on the foundation from home. Evenings cooking dinner and reading books, building a quiet, peaceful life. She dated occasionally, but she wasn't in a hurry. She'd learned that she was complete on her own, that she didn't need someone else to be happy. If the right person came along eventually, fine. But she wasn't searching. When Isabella was 8 months old, Brianna ran into someone at the grocery store. His name was Isaiah, and he was a teacher at the elementary school near her house. They'd collided when both reached for the same box of crackers, and Isabella had laughed at the resulting confusion. "She's beautiful," Isaiah said, making a funny face that made Isabella giggle. "How old?" 8 months. "And thank you." They talked for a few minutes and Isaiah made Isabella laugh 3 more times. Before they parted ways, he asked if Brianna would like to get coffee sometime. "I'm not really dating right now," Brianna said automatically. That's okay. I'm not really asking for a date. I'm asking to be friends with someone who has excellent taste in crackers. She laughed despite herself. Friends I can do. They did become friends. Isaiah was patient, kind, and had no agenda. He liked spending time with Isabella and didn't push for more than Brianna was ready to give. Slowly, over months, friendship turned into something deeper. I'm scared, Brianna admitted to him one evening when Isabella was almost a year old. My ex-husband destroyed me. I don't know if I can trust someone again. That's understandable, Isaiah said. But I'm not him. And you're not the same person you were when you were with him. You're stronger now. You know your worth. And you can leave anytime you want if I ever make you feel like you can't trust me. Just like that. Just like that. You're not trapped with me, Brianna. You're choosing to be here. And I'm choosing to be here too. That's how it should work. On Isabella's first birthday, Brianna threw a party. It was small. Patrice, Rita, Gregory Thompson and Patricia Mills, Sharon Cole, Isaiah, and a few other friends she'd made through the foundation. They sang happy birthday and Isabella smashed her hands into a purple cake, laughing the whole time. Look at you, Patrice said, putting an arm around Brianna. A year ago you were in a motel room wondering how you'd survive. Now look at this life you've built. Brianna looked around at the people gathered in her house, at her daughter covered in frosting, at Isaiah helping clean up with a smile on his face. She built this. All of it. She'd taken the worst thing that had ever happened to her and turned it into something good. I'm happy, she realized out loud. I'm actually happy. You deserve to be. That night, after everyone had gone home and Isabella was asleep, Brianna sat in the nursery and thought about Derek. She'd heard through Sharon that he wasn't doing well in prison. He'd gotten into fights. He'd been denied early parole. He had years left on his sentence. She didn't feel bad for him. She didn't feel anything at all. He was just someone who'd been in her life once, someone who'd hurt her but hadn't broken her. Someone who'd given her Isabella, which was the only good thing to come from their marriage. She thought about the woman she'd been when Derek threw her out. Scared, hurt, lost. That woman was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who knew her worth, someone who'd fought back and won. Derek had thought he could discard her like trash. Instead, he'd set her free. She stood up and walked to her bedroom, where a framed picture sat on her nightstand. It was her first ultrasound of Isabella, the one she'd been carrying home the day Derek threw her out. She kept it all this time as a reminder. Next to it now was a photo from Isabella's first birthday party. Her daughter's face covered in purple frosting, laughing with pure joy. That was the reminder she needed. Not of the pain but of what came after. Not of Derek but of Isabella. Not of what she'd lost but of what she'd gained. Brianna turned off the light and went to bed. Tomorrow she had a foundation meeting. Tomorrow Isabella had a doctor's appointment. Tomorrow Isaiah was taking them to the park. Tomorrow was full of life and possibility and joy. Derek had tried to destroy her future. Instead, he'd given her a reason to build a better one. And she had. She'd built something beautiful from the ashes of his cruelty. She'd won. Not just against Derek, but for herself and